everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of the Live Proud podcast, presented in partnership with Legion Brewing, the official craft beer of Evil Geniuses. My name is Erin Ashley Simon, and today we are celebrating LGBTQ plus pride. I have three amazing guests joining today. We have I Am Brandon, as well as EG's very own Ricky Ortiz and Sonic Fox. How are you all?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Listen, any day to talk about pride, I love it. Now, of course, throughout gaming, throughout esports, everyone pretty much has an idea of what you all do and what your professions are. But I would like to spend this time to change the introduction a little bit. Who are you as individuals, as people? I think a lot of times in this line of work, they see all the work we do, but it's a great opportunity for others to get to know us a little bit more. So, Brandon, I want to start off with you. Who is Brandon?
Well, I am Brandon. I am a Twitch partner. I work for the company Soft Giving. I've been in the space for about 9 years. I started 9 years ago with my own gaming website and found my way onto Twitch, and now, maneuvering through this whole gaming space as a queer person on the internet and in the gaming space. Yeah.
Nice. Sonic Fox, what about you?
I am a professional furry, imagine. I'm a professional fighting game player that plays under EG. I kind of just like to be myself on my social media pages and in my competition, and that me being like authentically myself all the time and being openly gay and queer about it too is what I guess resonates with a lot of people. So there you go.
And there you go. And of course, the lovely Ricky.
Hey guys. Of course, my name is Ricky Ortiz, and I've been a professional fighting game player for over 10 years now and been competing for about 17, 18 years. And I'm just here navigating the scene, being a transgender female, and showing my love for gaming and showing my love online for fashion and skincare. Like those are my biggest passions, and I always try to promote them. I always try to promote good sun health, good skincare, and I always post about fashion on my social media and just trying to further the LGBTQ community in the gaming world and just trying to be the best advocate that I can be.
Absolutely. You all are doing an amazing job with that. And Ricky, I agree with all your passions too. I definitely got to add food into it as well, because I'm so obsessed with food.
Definitely, me too.
Let me talk. I feel like you and I talk about food every time we do this podcast at some point. But, with it being June and it being Pride Month, I definitely want to ask you all, and of course, this is conversational. Jump in whenever you would like to. I think that this is a great opportunity for all of us to discuss. What does pride mean to you?
I feel like for pride means to me is ultimately self-affirmation, affirmation about who you are as a person and individual. Also dignity and being proud of who you are as a person and being okay with who you are. And of course, ultimately, the biggest one of all is equal rights. I feel like those are the biggest three for me personally. Whenever I think of pride, I feel like those. You want to feel confident and feel like yourself in your skin, and you just want everybody to be loved.
Ricky kind of hit it, kind of hit the nail on the head. Kind of just validation, honestly, and it's like I kind of just exist, and it's like not a big deal, Like I'm on the opinion that I feel we've made it when we no longer need a Pride Month. If that makes sense, and we're not there yet. So that is why we have these months, because it's going to show people that we exist. And once that kind of stuff is normalized, then there's no need for it anymore.
Well, for me, pride is just being very proud of being myself, and like as everybody already said, like being authentically myself, because I was not open about my sexual life for a very long time. It came through a lot of just discovery about myself. And also for me, it's about like remembering about the history of the LGBT community and how we've gotten here in general. And then also just like uplifting other LGBT folks around me, just making sure that we all have like a seat at the table. And then also like learning about other people's experiences, because like other people experience stuff that I don't experience. So I like to like just dive into people's life stories and know about what they experience, so I can help be a better person and better ally to them.
Yeah, loving yourself, be okay with yourself is definitely part of that. Just the feeling and just the notion of pride. Sonic Fox, you mentioned about how you wish that there wasn't a situation where it was only highlighted in 1 month, and that it should be an everyday thing. And so I kind of want to. I had this question later on, but I do want to jump into it because we're seeing so many conversations around companies and how they celebrate pride, and it's not just for a month. And I know, Brandon, you're very vocal about this on Twitter. So Brandon, I would like to start with you. When we talk about this in terms of celebrating, how can someone help with celebrating just the differences and just all kinds of people from the LGBTQ plus community aside from just Pride Month?
I think just in general, I think when people have, I guess, the stepping stone of they may not know any LGBT people at all, Pride is their introduction to that. Continuing to support those people outside of, June as well. Just like for brands and companies to start looking at, creators in general and involving them into your activations before, June comes up. So it's more like authentic and you actually do want to support LGBT community creators and all that kind of stuff. And then just just beyond June, just make sure you're still supporting and showing the love. I know I appreciate it. I hope I'm assuming everybody does as well. But I do understand that there's a lot of people who have probably lived in probably a smaller town and may not have a lot of life experience. But I think that Pride is a good stepping stone to learn about who is out there that you may not have known before. But then after that, continue to expand your network and see who else is out there. And then next year, you won't have to be like, oh, I don't know anybody who's LGBT,
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I mean, with that too, is the responsibility of various different individuals within the gaming and esports industry to be aware of LGBTQ plus community members and content creators and professionals. I do know that it is a little bit harder within the esports space. So Sonic Fox and Ricky, I would love to ask you guys about that because I feel like general gaming, there's definitely more people who are out and proud. There's definitely a little more visibility. Esports, it seems like it's still not quite there. So, how can one truly celebrate within this space, especially when it's not as inclusive yet?
I've always felt the fighting game community has been pretty inclusive about diversity and LGBTQ plus rights and things. It's kind of like it was kind of the foundation of FGC was built off of us. It was just a bunch of people just had an interest in fighting games, all came from diverse different parts of the communities and all come together just to celebrate playing fighting games. And that's why I've always felt like the FGC is a lot more closer with each other as people than you see in other esports. Now, and I'm sure that's not to say that other esports people aren't close enough. I'm not saying that at all, but it's how the FGC was brought up with inclusivity and the diverseness that came up with it. But I feel if we start addressing some of the language that we use, or starting implementing rules and things like that about what you can and cannot say during a competition or even online, I think that will go a long way to start making people act like people, because that already didn't fly in the FGC right off the bat. And the moment somebody does say some heinous or toxic stuff, they pretty much get canceled pretty quickly. So I feel like if things like that start happening more in other esports, I think we could see a lot more productivity, honestly.
I definitely agree with everything Sonic said. I think the more people are accepting, and of course the FGC is extremely accepting. They've always been accepting, and I kind of always champion that fact that the FGC has been so accepting in the community that I feel that once other communities catch on to be that way and be more inclusive, I feel like people will be more comfortable in celebrating themselves and celebrating who they are, because ultimately I feel like I'm living my truth, and I'm very proud of it. And I really honestly didn't really have a problem coming out because my community was so forthcoming and it's so accepting of me. And I feel like if other communities were to follow suit and perhaps maybe look at the FGC for some kind of inspiration, I feel like we would get very far as a whole in the gaming world and just esports in general. And you would probably see a lot more LGBT people come out of the woodworks, I feel, because they would feel more accepted and loved.
Absolutely. I mean,
love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So good. I love it.
we gotta listen. I'm trying to let's bring the energy. Let's
Yeah,
celebrate
I love
energy.
it.
Let's celebrate pride. Like, this is a wonderful time to be celebrating who we all are, right? And
Of
we all are
course.
very unique across the board. And so I have to ask, in what ways do you personally celebrate? I know everyone's very different. Brandon, I love how vibrant you are. You're very loud and proud, and I am all for that. Ricky, you be slaying in your IG,
Yes.
and of course, Sonic Fox. I see you always on Twitter telling people you either like me or you don't. I love
Yes,
how
and that's
you
how you
all.
gotta be.
You gotta be. I love the energy that you all bring to the table when it comes to that, because I think we all can agree, with all of us at a certain point, we struggle to get to this point of accepting who
Of
we are
course.
in terms of being members of the LGBTQ plus community. So, with that progression, how do you all personally celebrate? Whether it's in your streams, digitally, in competition, at home, like, how do you celebrate?
I usually before like Pride happens, like months before, I'm just like, oh, I like to, just like, I love gay memes all the time. So, but definitely during Pride, I up the ante because we got to make sure there's rainbows everywhere. I just like posted a rainbow a few times already today. Let me know this is our month, so we're gonna do that. Just in general, though, it's like the neighborhood that I live in, and it's like very LGBT friendly, which is one of the reasons I feel very safe where I'm at, because I get to experience so many different walks of life, which I absolutely love. So they do like different kind of events. Like this weekend, they're doing like an actual march for change here, which I'm going to be involved in. So I just do little like different events that are here. But it's just be loud and proud. Here I'm here for it.
Honestly, what I do to celebrate Pride is just by living normally. Honestly,
Yeah.
I know me just existing already pisses people off, so I'm going to continue existing, and they cannot stop me. So
Yes.
that's just the reality of the situation. Like you said before, you either like me, or you don't, and that's not going to bother me one bit. So I'm going to continue living by my virtues, and follow life the way I want to. And if you don't like it, get out of my way. Honestly, so
Yeah.
And they can't. And even if they try to fight you in fighting games, we all know that's not going to
They're
work.
about to get bodied. They're about to get bodied.
Ricky, what about you?
I agree with Sonic again. I feel like I celebrate myself when I exist in this community and just in the world to make myself happy and to make myself proud and to just celebrate myself in a sense of like me transitioning and me being proud of myself. And I think it all kind of started, and I feel like this is kind of cliche in a sense, but I feel like around 2010, that's when I started expressing myself even more, because I had found out about Lady Gaga and I became like a really huge fan of her.
Yeah.
And she was quirky and weird and unorthodox, kind of like how I always been, and I was always in the fashion, but I never really had the guts to kind of step out and like dress really eccentric in public and at tournaments for that, because of what people would think. And then eventually I kind of just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna start dressing like myself and be who I want to be and wear my 10-inch platforms to a tournament and just be a bad bitch at a tournament, and because it makes me happy. And if I get stares and I get people looking at me crazy, like, I don't care. Like, I'm celebrating myself, I'm happy to be myself, and that's all there is to it. And then eventually I came out as trans, and like the same thing goes. Like I try to present as how I want to present, and if anybody has a problem with it, like that's their problem, because like I said, I exist for my happiness, not for people I don't know.
I love that. I love that. Oh, that was so good.
Especially
so
the
good.
shoes, because I cannot walk around in them shoes. So that is a skill and a half over there. So obviously, like, us living and being who we are is how we celebrate. However, I also want to take the time for us to celebrate other members of the LGBTQ plus community as well. And so for you all, who are some individuals or maybe companies who you would like to celebrate and recognize during this episode as those who are either part of the community who are doing a great job supporting just overall efforts, or maybe it's someone who is doing the right allyship that sometimes we struggle seeing, especially when it comes around this time of the year.
I'm just gonna say this right now. I think Lil Nas X is like the coolest person that I've ever seen in my entire life. I like to think like what I was doing on the gaming level was pretty huge. Being myself and then saying that kid, and then like Lil Nas X, like, and I only know what like kind of like the harassment and stuff that I deal with, and I still do what I do anyway, so I sweat it. So God knows what Lil Nas X deals with, and like the
Mhm.
fact that he's just making so many people mad by just living his truest life and just being himself is just something that I'm just like, you're like literally doing what like I'm doing in the music world on a higher, grander scale, and I just think it is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm like such a big fanboy of him. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. What about you two? If Lil Nas X is one of those, who's someone else under that you think is worth celebrating?
I will have to say my friend Tanya DePass. She is one of the most incredible people I've like ever met. I met her a few years ago, and I was still trying to figure out like my own identity in the gaming space, and she just always has made me feel comfortable. Just doing things that had never done before. Like I got into Dungeons and Dragons because of her, and yeah, and just experiencing different things I had never done before. And she's always like, made sure to check in on me. Like we were just actually texting today, and I'm just so proud of all the success she has and that is coming. And just in general, she's just been a champion for so many of us that I feel like there's a lot of people who don't realize that the work that she's put in has to deal with is not always appreciated, but I always have appreciated what she's done for us. And it's just incredible. She's an amazing person.
I would definitely have to say, of course, Little Nas X is amazing. I love him so much, but I will have to say the person that I look up to the most right now currently and who I think is doing an amazing job in the community is Hunter Schafer. I'm such a big fan of her from Euphoria, and just her I just feel like her character was a good representation of a transgender character because it didn't focus so much on a sob story. It just focused on her everyday life and living her life as trans. And I'm a big fan of her fashion. I'm a big fan of how she advocates self-love and self-awareness, and how she will do stuff like wear a bikini and have a bulge and not be ashamed of herself. And I feel like that's important for young trans people to see, because I feel like as trans people we are put in a box in the sense where you have to look and present a certain way when you really don't. You can look and present however you want to present, and that's really all that matters. And I feel like she's a really good champion for just not giving a fuck and just being who you want to be and being yourself and dressing any way you want to and not giving a fuck what people think and just do what you want. And I think that's totally amazing. And I think that definitely we need more people like that in the community to have people feel more comfortable within themselves, I feel.
I've always said to that, on top of that, I've always said I think the most touching kind of whether it's gay, trans, queer plus representation for me is ones that don't focus on it and rather focus on the humanity behind what they are, despite whatever problems they go through in life. I think when media presents the humanity of those people, not, oh, look at these two people, they're gay, and that's just the most appealing thing about them. No, I don't think that's very good representation. I think it's good representation when it shows them living their. Like I'm more of a fan of the subtleness, right? It's like it's like but it's like it's something you either discover as you're like watching, or it's like very subtle in how they do it. But that subtlety you pick up on it, and you're like, like I think that's to me what like really like hits better and closer to home, because it's like that's real life to me. You know, if that makes sense. Yeah, the way that kind of representation is enacted in real life is very representative to like how some of us literally go to our day-to-day lives, where we don't want to represent that kind of parts to ourselves because it's like, like you could, like, bad things could happen doing that, and given the current circumstances of where we're at right now. And I hope that changes in the future, but I think not only will I need this month anymore, but you'll see a lot more people just happy.
Yeah, let's talk about that normalizing component, because I know that we're starting to see more things that are being integrated that allow for for these kind of conversations to be normalized. The fact that you could put your pronouns on Instagram, there's now tags, more tags on Twitch. There's a lot more that's being added so that we can get to that point where these things are normalized. However, I feel like as we're getting there, because all these things are being implemented now, it's now, there's sometimes blowback where it's like, why are you putting all that in my face? Like, why are you putting all the LGBTQ plus blah 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 like back in certain people's faces? But I feel like you have to set the standard for it to be normalized. So, I mean, what are all your thoughts when it comes to just the expressive elements that we're seeing in social media, within gaming and esports, that allow for us to get to the point where it's not just a month, it's a more normalized just being yourself as an LGBTQ plus member in whatever way that you would like to.
I saw a funny meme the other day, right? And it's like, if it's white, it's not political, but if it's two people of like color or something, it's automatically political. If it's straight, it's not political, but if it's people that are gay, it's suddenly political. And I'm here to hope that we set the standard pretty close to soon, because this is us, and if you can't deal with it, then again, get out of my way. The blowback that people right experiencing saying, "Oh, why are you shoving this down my throat?" Nobody's shoving anything down your throat. That is you electing to see the content that you go out of your way to search for. And if, like, for example, if you're gonna type in something online that says like, or like look up something that has like for example pronouns in their name, or like just has like queer coded, if you will, then you're gonna get queer coded content. Nobody's shoving that in your face. That is what the content you're going out your way to look for. So when people say that it's too much, it's getting in my face, no, you're acting out of bad faith. And I like immediately I just like your opinion. It just becomes almost nothing to me, honestly, when you see something like that. So
Yep, I agree. I think that seeing stuff like that on social media and just in our world in general it's a great step forward. I think it's something that has to be done. I think people don't feel uncomfortable because they're unfamiliar with the unknown, and obviously being LGBTQ is not unknown, but I feel like you need to take those steps to help normalize these things. And I think people want to say stuff like, "Oh, like you're shoving this down my throat," is because like when they were younger, they actually had people to look up to. You know, they had figures to look up to on TV and in the media, and straight characters, and all this stuff like that. But as us, as LGBTQ plus people, we had nothing to look up to. We had no kind of LGBT character on TV. Only thing we had, like for me as a trans woman, I had like Jerry Springer, like that, like why would I ever want to look up to something like that? I think it's just silly. But I think that the steps moving forward, yet everything it's slow moving. I feel like it's great progress, just because you have to make people feel uncomfortable to actually eventually normalize something, I feel.
I just think in general, like it's so interesting to see like the lack of respect that people have. Like even thinking about pronouns, where it's just literally you're just respecting how someone wants to be identified, and that's it. It's nothing, and how people get so angry about that if you have it on your own thing, or if you're respecting somebody else's. And it just shows you how far we have to go for other people to just like respect other people and how they live. And sometimes just mind your own business. You know what I mean? Like just stay in your own lane. That's the craziest thing to me, is that I don't know why people are like, "Oh, I don't like gay people," or da, da, da. It's like, okay, well, that you're not that. You okay? So like, I don't know why you have any issue with what I'm doing in my life. I'm over here, you're over there. I mean, you literally don't have to even deal with any of that. So whatever I'm doing does not affect you. Leave me alone. But I think it's just always like confusing when people are just really that upset of just trying to respect other people. But
the world's a shitty place.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Right?
go.
And a lot of times, those are the ones who are LGBTQ themselves, and they just haven't came out of the closet yet.
That does happen a lot too. Yeah, and it's just depending on like people's background and stuff, they're taking out their anger of like not knowing how to deal with it, which is very sad though. But that's very true.
It's like, babe, stop projecting on me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but also part of that process for some of them is, a learning process. And for some, it's a little bit easier than others. And also, the one thing about esports and gaming is that there's fans from all over the world, and sometimes they're from countries that homosexuality is illegal, right? So it's also just a very unique dynamic in that way. However, as part of the Live Proud podcast and everything else that you all are doing, and how you utilize your social media, that just being yourself is helping to educate people. But then also information in terms of pride, and even something like, there's a lot of people that don't know why the color black and brown were added into the pride flag, and they didn't even know what that meant, right? And so for you all, when was kind of that moment or period where you learned more about pride, you learned more about the history and just that information and how you took it in? When was that moment, and how was that moment for you?
I would say when I first learned about how Pride all started in the beginning, when I learned the history of it and how, because like, at the time I was just like, oh, it's just like a parade or something. And then when I learned the history of it and how it was just like, Marsha P. Johnson, like through the brick. I just like, just to see how, trans women are even disrespected just in like, and just in general, like how they started this entire month by, trying to fight for all of us, which is still sad that, I coming from me, like talk about gay culture, how they just are really disrespectful. The closest thing I would say to mainstream media that has shown this in such a way would be the show Pose, which I absolutely love. Which
I love
does
it.
show,
Great
which
show.
they show how like the gay community has treated the trans community and just like, people of color in general. But like just learning about the history of Pride really made me like be like, okay, this is what it actually means. And that's why I try to make sure to like every year when it comes up to say something about it, because there are people, like you said, like from different countries who have no idea what it is, and just make sure to keep educating and sending that to people who may not know. I think that helps out a lot too.
I want to say I first learned about it in high school, actually. I think I could have gone down a really bad route and like being another like bigoted person if I didn't learn about it, because I was very, very well misinformed, and my friends started rejecting me about it too, and like I wanted to understand, right? And so I remember joining them one day in a GSA Prime meeting because I cared about them, and I'm like, I know they're getting mad at me. I don't want my friends mad at me, so I want to understand. And going there, I think changed my entire life, because that's when I also came to terms with my own like personal feelings as well, and I started learning more about I didn't even know it was like a culture, right? I just thought that it was just you were kind of just that's just what you were, right? And then you kind of went about your everyday, but there's so much more to it. Understanding everything and slowly like getting more in tune with myself ever since that meeting, and like now being who I am today, I think was a very, very, very wake up call for me. And I'm always thankful for my friends Carly, June, and Allie. Thank you very much for that. I think that was really, really important to me. This is my high school best friends.
I actually learned about Pride on I was 21 years old, and I was extremely heartbroken because my first boyfriend had broke up with me. And at the time, I was living with my cousin and his girlfriend in their house. And my cousin's girlfriend's sister, had a girlfriend, and her name was Priscilla. And she knew I was sad. And she's like, "Girl, I'm going to take you out tonight. We're going to go have some fun to try to cheer you up." And she was like, I'm going to ask her, "Where are we going?" And she's like, "We're going to go to a Pride party in San Francisco." And I was like, "Ooh, what is that?" And then she literally explained to me like what Pride was, helped educate me and everything, took me to go have the best time of my life, cheered me up. And then, of course, later on in life, I learned even more about Pride and what it is to be a trans woman, actually from my really good friend Isis, who she actually basically helped give me knowledge about transitioning and helping me transition into the woman I am today. Like if I feel like if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be as knowledgeable about just like the Stonewall stuff, just like Brandon said, and just what it is to be a trans woman, and actually just simple things as this, just to get hormones. She helped educate me so much, and I'm so grateful for her, and she helped me become the woman I am today, and I'm so proud of that.
Wow, that is
Yes.
awesome. Yes. It's so great when we do have some people or just even organizations or resources that help us to learn more about it, because during that process we end up learning more about ourselves and figuring out who we are, right? Even the simple thing as like for myself, I'm like, am I bi? Am I fluid? I don't know. Like, and just learning about the terminologies and things and figuring out what feels right for who we are. Like, oh, like I remember first time reading about it, I'm like, that's me. Like I know who I am. Like that's how I feel. And honestly, just it's a very transformative period of time. But also, I think that there are moments where some people may not know where to go or how to look things up because they don't necessarily have the community, the resources or support around them. And there's actually a lot and even more growing of LGBTQ plus support and resources and communities within the industry. So for anyone who's watching who is LGBTQ plus, how would you? What advice would you give to them in terms of how do they find their own community? How do they go about connecting with others in the industry? And especially if they maybe feel afraid to, just because of the anonymous factor of the internet and just how some people can be.
I always say, there's always that one friend that will always love you regardless of anything that you tell them. Like that's just like your ride or die, and you start with them, and you go from there. The very first I felt the very first important step for me for acceptance was feeling accepted by other people first, and so when you have that, even if it's just one person, if you have that one person, that small friend group that just appreciates you for who you are, I feel that is a huge step to progress of then learning how to accept yourself and then being able to just live freely. That's how at least that's how I went for me. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's always good to have those people in your life who support you and love you no matter what, even if it's a friend, if it's a family, if it's an acquaintance. But I try to do my part personally too. Like if somebody messages me in my DMs on Twitter or Instagram, I try my hardest to answer messages that pertain to LGBTQ stuff, because I feel like if I look back on myself, I would want that. I feel like it's really important. And like I go back to my friend Isis. Like without her, I don't know when I would have found out about like transitioning and how to transition and where should I transition and where I would find the resources for something like that. And the sad part is like there are such common and basic resources, but at that time I didn't have access to that, and I didn't know what that was. And I think about that whenever I see someone message me and they're like sad about maybe being bullied in a community, or maybe like asking me questions about surgery or about hormones or anything, or where can they get access to stuff like that. I try to always be that person for them, because maybe that will give them courage to step up more and to have confidence in themselves and to be more active in the community, and just to be, like Sonic said, just to be who they are as a person and be happy with themselves.
I think everybody hit the nail on the head on this one. Just in general, yeah. Like, I know for me, I'm my family's still around, but we're not like very close. But I've like found like a chosen family of friends who we're really close. And definitely this past year, with like a lot of the stuff was like we're inside and stuff. I definitely leaned on them to just like get me through a lot of stuff where we're still, we have a group chat that we talk every single day, and just like having those people who understand you and just having that kind of love is super important. And like, I'm about to turn 33, and I'm feeling like, oh my God, I have all these friends who are like, they care about me, because it's very nice to just have people you can talk to who are like you and who you can talk about any problems that you have. I know for me, when it comes to streaming, I definitely have gone into different streams who are like, just a part of the LGBT community, and just felt comfortable because they're like me. They understand what I'm dealing with. And it's not like just going into a different stream where I don't feel like I would be accepted there. It's just that sense of just being around people who are like you is just so important. So yeah, if you ever have a chosen family, stick with them. They'll rock with you as long as possible. Because that is such an important thing. I think a lot of people in the LGBT community do rely on, is just having those friends who you can talk to.
That's why I'm so happy with being a furry, actually, because it's like the furry fandom is like just inherently LGBTQ plus. So like having that like group chat, and like it just like it's actually like being straight in the furry community is a minority. It's actually sick, actually. So
Yeah, that's kind of unheard of.
yeah. Yeah, I like being straight is a minority in the community. So like being part of like group chats, just interacting as like a furry, and I just like it's just like almost like 90% of furries that I ever interacted. Not even 90, like 99% furries I interacted. I just kind of assume you're like not straight, and like, it's like I'm pretty right. Like 99% of the time, I usually just assume you're just not. It's rare. I told you, there's a minority, like heterosexuality in the furry community is a minority. So.
Oh, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah,
Because it's typically people will assume the latter, right? They always assume someone's straight until otherwise. And
yeah, exactly. No, it's the opposite.
it is. But it's funny you mention that too, because I think that's also another assumption that happens in esports and gaming, is that everyone just assumes someone is straight until otherwise, until they say something. But also part of that is that they're not, not everyone's ready to be out publicly. They may be out with their friends and family, but not, on a professional level. But I have to say, since June 1st, there's been more professionals and creators who have been coming out more. And that is tough to come out publicly, right? You already have to come out to your, it's like a step. I don't know. I don't know how
It's
many times I
cathartic.
came out. Like it's like 10 times at this point, right? It's like
I
10
I
times.
say it's cathartic to do it too. You can't take that away from somebody. Like that's why I actually a good friend of mine actually. You guys might know him. He goes by Dragon_FGC on Twitter. He's a top Mortal Kombat player. I remember he came out publicly to everyone last year, but before that, like a lot of the community in the already knew he was gay, but he never really talked about it. And I remember talking about him before. I was like, why? I was like, how come you never like talk about pride? How come you never just be yourself? And he was like, I remember a long time ago he just said he just don't want to be, I get you don't want that side to be affiliated with him right away, right? And to me it felt like it came from like a sense of like uncomfortability, right? But then like I guess last year is when like he was just like fuck it, and then came out online, and like I thought it was like the coolest thing ever because I think he was really happy with being himself, and I was just like when he did that, I know how important that moment is. For me, I maybe be different for him, but I know when I had that moment to just go on Twitter and just be like I'm gay, and like that was that. I knew it was the most cathartic thing ever. People keep thinking I did it at the esports awards. Like, no, buddy, I did that like 4 years ago. So, but prior to that, so.
So what advice would you give to those who, may be trying to figure out whether they want to come out publicly or not? Like I was mentioning, like your friend came out. There were several broadcasters in the esports space who came out as well, content creators around June 1st. That's a hard thing to do, and to have something be something that's private, or maybe you've taken that's your sixth coming out, or maybe that's your 10th coming out. But no matter what, it could be challenging for everyone. So what advice would you give to those who may be on the fence about, letting others know publicly who they are, especially when their professional life is tied to who they are in the esports and gaming space?
I would say make sure, and it sucks to have to say this, but make sure it's not a detriment to you, that if you do it, like it won't come with any huge backlash or consequences. I feel like it's something you need to do when the moment is right. Even if you're comfortable with yourself at that point, you need to make sure that you're safe in doing so, because sometimes the world is a very cruel place. So just make sure you just need to make sure you're around people that care about you. Usually, the hope is that nothing bad goes wrong, which sometimes it does, but sometimes it does. Like sometimes, like your family might have a really adverse reaction to it. Sometimes people will start yelling at, like, a lot of toxic things can go wrong. And I'm glad that it didn't really happen for me, or like it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I felt, but I've heard some horror stories. Like you just need to be careful. But I promise when that time is right, which it will come, whether it's now or way later, I promise there's nothing like it. It's a moment of catharsis.
Totally agree. I feel like you need to be patient and you need to be kind to yourself and loving, because that is your moment. I feel, and it will come. But I also feel like Sonic said, you just have to be careful, because I mean I could imagine, like say like you're a big streamer and you come out as LGBTQ, there you have to worry about your professional life, and that's also like you have to worry about so many things. And I feel like when you know it'll happen, because I mean, God forbid someone comes out and they lose a bunch of subs or followers because their following is not okay with them, or their friends and family. But I always say that I feel like people who want to come out always think about like when they should come out, but honestly, like you'll know when it's time to come out. I feel like it just kind of happens, because that's what happened with me twice. So I feel like that's how it goes with everybody.
It's like a light bulb that just goes off inside.
Yeah.
You're just like you could literally be eating cereal and you're just like, yeah, today's the day.
Today, yeah, and to add on to that too, it's like you'll know why you'll need to do it too. I think like I was talking about Dragon. I think last year is when he realized that he has he has a lot of fans. He has a lot of people that look up to him, and he may have a huge fan base of people that are LGBTQ plus as well. And so when he makes that decision to come out, I'm like I think he also realized like how much that would affect the generation before him, or even the generation in the future, to help them come out for me personally, I realized that power too when a community member, she goes under the name 16-bit, came out as transgender, trans woman, and she told me that I was a huge help of me just being me publicly on Twitter, and then public was a huge reason why she had the confidence to even come out and as trans woman herself. And that to me alone is enough for me to continue doing what I do for an eternity.
There's so much positive. I feel like there's so much positive byproduct that comes out of coming out. As whoever you want to come out as, because obviously you're doing it for your own personal reasons, but so much good comes out of it that you really don't see until later on. Like when I came out as gay, people would message me online and say that it helped them want to come out as gay as well. And then when I came out as trans, it happened even more. And I still get messages to this day, people saying that you really inspired me to come out, like, or you made it easier for me to come out, or seeing someone like you in the public eye makes it easier for me to be myself, or, I wanted to hurt myself, but then I saw a video of yours and it made me like happy and not want to do anything negative to myself, so it's like, I feel like those are things that we don't think of when we come out, but I feel like it helps so many people in the long run.
Everyone, all the ideas are so good. That's so true. I'll just add real quick, just take your time whenever you're ready. I know for myself, like when I was trying to come up in the space, I didn't really have like anybody to look at who was in the gaming space in general. So when the light bulb went off one day and I was like, you know what, I guess I'm going to come out again to everybody. And then just to see I got a few messages just from, people who were gay, or, black males who were also gay, were just like, thanking me for saying something. It's just everybody is inspired by other people's coming out, and just whenever you're ready, that's when do it in a very safe environment. Also, like we were talking about, like having that chosen family or your family with you before you like do it in the public eye in that kind of way is super important to just make sure everything's safely done, and then you get to live your authentic life, which is so dope. You know what I mean?
Fabulous.
Like, it's so good.
Absolutely. So for everyone who's tuning in, when you are ready to have that bowl of cereal, you will know. But Ricky, Sonic, Brandon, thank you all so much for coming on and talking about your experiences, your thoughts, and also what does it just mean to be proud, and especially during Pride Month. Also, thank you to everyone who tuned in to the Live Proud podcast, episode 10, presented in partnership with Elysian Brewing, the official craft beer of Evil Geniuses. Woo! Celebration, as you can see. I think it's on what? Is it? Wait, is it my left or right?
It's so good. I had it last night.
I had some. I was like, wow.
I need to go get me some today.
Listen. We definitely gonna go crack some open and celebrate who we are, because. Listen,
it's for the weekend.
Exactly, but not even just that. You can't just celebrate the weekend, Sonic. You gotta celebrate every day, because you gotta be proud
every day.
of
Until
who
it
you
becomes
are.
normalized.
Exactly. yeah. Don't crack one every day, but celebrate every day in whatever way you can. Now, remember, everyone, make sure to live with love, live loud, and obviously live proudly. My name is Aaron Ashley Simon. Thank you all for tuning in to Live Proud. We'll see you all later.